Welcome back. Okay, last week I published an article called 4 Ways to See If Your Plan is Working. And I gave you different ways you could look at your training. And the final section of that article was on decoupling. And I wanted to dig into decoupling a little bit. What it does is it gives you a chance to look at the depth of your fitness over time. And in that section, I gave you a couple targets. I said if you're running, to try and see if you can keep your heart rate to pace lined up for 2 hours. And if you're using the bike, build up to a 4-hour duration, I thought was a nice target. And one of the reasons why you want to look at decoupling is if you always do your benchmarking and your testing fresh, it doesn't give you that great an indication of where you're at. And the decisive part of your events is going to be what happens in the second half. So if you're always testing at the beginning of a microcycle, when you haven't stressed your body at all, you might be getting a look at your fitness that doesn't necessarily relate to what's going to be important for race performance, your performance at the end of your event. So decoupling is one way to get a look at that. And I'll share other techniques as we go through the book and progress our understanding. So this is my most recent bike test, and my aerobic threshold is at about 200 watts. That's the point before my lactate starts to tick up. And I felt that trying to hold 200 might be a bit bold for me based on where my fitness is. So I actually wanted to hold a number that's in my easy zone and prove my easy stamina before trying to challenge myself with a higher number. And over time, as your fitness deepens, you'll find that you will stay coupled. The relationship between your power and your pace and your heart rate will stay locked in once you've warmed up over longer and longer durations. And that is one way to measure the depth of your fitness. So I use Training Peaks to track my training. And the simplest way to have a look at decoupling, or whether you stay coupled, is you just open the workout file up and you can put some laps in. So right now what we're looking at is we're looking at the entire workout. And the entire workout I averaged 164 watts at 108 beats per minute. So it was easy. It felt easy the whole way through. And one of the things you'll notice is in the first 20 minutes, you can see my heart rate coming up. And I don't rush my heart rate up. In order to get my heart rate to go up, I might have to override or overrun or overswim, whatever mode I'm using, the early part of that workout. I give my body a chance just to come into the zone. And that's a key thing for you to remember with your own training. Don't charge out the door. Every run I've been doing since my return to running last summer, I do a power walk for 10 minutes at the beginning, just to get my body rolling and to avoid stressing out my calves and my hamstrings, which have been a little on edge at times with my return to running. So after you've looked at the whole workout, you can look at sections of the workout. So if we look at after the first 20 minutes, the average for 20 to 60 minutes, 165 watts, 110 beats per minute. Very easy. Next hour, 164 watts, 107 beats per minute. It's a little lower. I don't know if necessarily reads anything into that. I'll often see my heart rate drop a bit in the second hour after I'm warmed up and I'm kind of in the mood. Maybe I'm getting more mechanically efficient. I just want to see it kind of lined up. And then in the third hour, goes up a little bit, 168 average power and 111 heart rate. And you can see the normalized power up here for this segment is 176. It's a little higher than the average power. And what happened was I put some little surges in there just to wake the legs up in the last part of the workout. Nothing extreme, but you can see my heart rate, my max heart rate in that section went up to 126, whereas in the prior hour, my max heart rate was 115. So rev the engine a little bit, just taking the power up to functional threshold a couple times. And so I stay coupled. So tick the box. Now the next time I do the workout, I'm going to see if I can get my 4-hour badge and I can stay coupled for 4 hours. And that's just how I'm building it up. Now, a little bit about this concept of decoupling. When you look at your zones, you really have a curve of performance. It's not discrete. It's not like there really isn't a zone 1 and a zone 2. What you have is you have this range of heart rates and a range of powers and a range of paces. So there's a curve relationship, and each workout you do is merely a dot on your curve. And if you're doing workouts at different intensities, there'll be different dots in different segments. So it's not that discrete in terms of, well, we can say exactly what's happening. And Training Peaks has an interesting, this is in the graphs, the performance graphs that you can look in their performance management section. And what you'll see here is, this is my heart rate duration curve. So the longest I've held 3 hours, the highest heart rate I've held for 3 hours in the last 6 months is 121 beats per minute. Now, this is an interesting thing related to decoupling, is that if you're always doing segment workouts and you're a long distance athlete and you go to the race and you expect that you'll be able to hold a heart rate for a period of time that's higher than you've ever held it in training, you might be able to, but also you might not be able to, depending on how big that gap is. So it's something to look at, is the heart rate duration curve. And then beside the heart rate duration curve is the power duration curve. What's the longest you've held the power? And if you've always do segment rides and you stop for breaks and drinks, then you might not be getting a clear idea of what your actual capacity is with regards to continuous exercise. And the longer you go in your event, the more this can become an issue. And one of the things I tell Ironman and half Ironman athletes is, you're going to need to ride below the curve. And the curve, when I give that advice, is this curve. It's your power duration curve. You're not going to be able to run well if your hardest bike workout of the year happens to be in your race. So when you do your simulations on the bike particularly are going to need to be much more demanding than what you're going to be putting out in the race, because the best place to put your extra effort is into the run. And same thing, peak. Now this is a pace duration curve, and mine's really flat right now. I'm getting back to running. Quite risky for me to do a bunch of faster running, and really I'm just trying to build the capacity to do run training, and this could continue for a while. I'm on a just stay healthy running program. So if you have any questions on decoupling, how to use it in your program, or if anything I ran through wasn't clear, hit me up in the comments or hit me up over on Twitter. The key thing that I would say is establish your low end ability to stay coupled, and that is watts and pace around aerobic threshold. Get that established first, because your ability to tolerate your higher intensity training will be related to your ability to stay coupled. So when I was able to do a lot of very challenging training, I also had exceptional stamina around aerobic threshold because I was very metabolically fit and I could recover very quickly from volume as well as easy training. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you next time.